We are on Tuesday morning. As you can tell from the lighting, it is early Tuesday morning. I'm getting an early start, as I often do. So, what did you think of the episode last night? I got into dangerous territory and I'm aware of it, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the way I spoke about it, with the podcast episode that I wrote, because I think it's time for us to look at, really, when we talk about the red pill, what are we actually talking about? Because now I'll be the first to tell you that everything in life, no matter what it is, it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. So when I was originally introduced to the Manosphere or red pill, the basis of it was just simply the truth. Telling the truth, seeing the world as it actually is and not for what I think it should be. And so I think that's a good way to look at things. It's an honest way of looking at things, if you ask me. And a lot of times, looking at things honestly will help you to make a fair assessment of where you are in life, and then it'll help you to make the adjustments that you need to make. But now, here's the caveat to the whole thing. And I hope that this was what was taken away from that short podcast. No podcast individual who advocates for anything should replace actual real world experiences and relationships. Because you see, I absolutely appreciate everybody that tunes in and that, takes my opinion on things and, trust my judgment. I appreciate that. That's without question. But listen to me when I say this. If you're asking me which one would be best, would it be best for you to sit and listen at my ideas and the principles that I espouse? Would it be best as opposed to having a real world example, seeing a father or a grandfather or an uncle or even an older brother in real time, seeing those individuals go through difficulties and maintaining the kind of masculinity that empowers everyone around them? See, that real world example is going to have more of an effect. And the reason why I highlight a real world example is simply because if we're involving the young person, whether it's a young man or a young woman, if we're involving them in real life examples, then they can compare the real life example that they see with what they see online. See, I think one of the major shortfalls of the Manosphere, and I can speak on it because I'm a part of it. One of the major disadvantages of individuals who are newly introduced to the Manosphere is that you have a lot of content creators who believe in being sensational. They believe in saying some of the worst things that they possibly could, as opposed to looking at the situation and trying to find a competent middle ground where everybody can understand the point and then build on that point until we have better outcomes. Because see, that's the whole goal. The whole goal is individually to have better outcomes. The whole reason for starting the Manosphere was for better outcomes. It wasn't to bash women. It wasn't to make anyone feel that they're less desirable. What it was to get better outcomes. And the red pill really centered on, as I mentioned, the reality of the situation. So I give you an example. Last night, I talked to my daughter about it. I landed on the wrong side of TikTok. I did. I landed on the wrong side of TikTok. I don't know where I was. I was in limbo. But I found myself in the conversation where there was a young man in the conversation saying that it wasn't necessary for a child to have a mother and a father in order to be a man. Well, now the prompt asked the question of whether or not men in a single parent family could affect the development of a boy into a man. And it was almost unbelievable. I couldn't believe that there was somebody out there that believed that, and they were adamant. They're adamant about the fact that y'all hold on a minute. There we go. They were adamant about the fact that you don't need both parents in order for the child to be happy and healthy. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I even commented. I told one of the people that was on the panel, I said, listen, it took two to produce the child. Don't you think it would be reasonable to have two to raise the child? And see, that's what I mean. That's why they say red pill is so hurtful, because it's you highlighting the truth. You highlighting something that in my case, it seems to be elementary. But as that conversation went on, I began to realize that the ideologies that some people push, they push ideologies that cause chaos, and that's what they want. They want things to be chaotic. The more chaotic, the more people are drawn into that particular room, and the more traffic is seen in that room, evidently the more famous they become. So when you're first introduced to red pill, avoid those that tend to be sensational. If you don't have a male figure in your life, and I trust me, I feel where you're coming from. I do, because there was a time in my life where male figures in my life were missing. But as I got older, I began to surround myself with older men who could help me, that could give good counsel. They weren't radicalized. They didn't have any preconceived notions about the opposite sex that were negative and extreme. These were patient men. These were men who had approached life with positivity, and so they were able to navigate without becoming bitter. And see, that's one of the things that you have to be careful about. You have to be careful. If you're in a situation where things are not going your way, what is the proper response to that situation? Is it to become angry and bitter? Now, maybe it's okay to be angry at the beginning, and young men should be able to feel that emotion, but it shouldn't be something that controls you. It shouldn't be something that pulls you out of who you are. It causes you to change your character completely. So that's what you have to be careful of. Things are going to happen. And in reality, there's always something that you can look at, and you can draw a negative conclusion from it. Always. There's always something that you can be upset about. There's always something that you can be angry about. That's just life in general. But I think at the same time, being able to look at the difficulties and the negatives in life and still being able to move forward in a positive way is very courageous and admirable. I think so. And I think that's really a part of what manhood is. Manhood isn't screaming and shouting and trying to pull people in with sensationalism. Manhood is strength. And that strength allows you not necessarily to control others, but to control yourself. And if you can master self-control, if you can master your response to what people say and what they do, then now you've taken the response that you'll give, you've taken it out of their hands and you put it in your own hands. in that situation, mostly, a person can learn to be at peace and to be happy and to be joyful. Because your response, you come to realize that your response is your own. You don't let anyone make you angry. You don't let anyone cause you to feel any way. You choose the way that you feel because you have control of yourself, right? So I think that's a wonderful thing. I really do. I think it's wonderful that a person can come to that conclusion. But you won't come to that conclusion if you're surrounding yourself with people that are angry. They're always angry. They're always saying something to be offensive to those around them. And when you happen upon people like that, you come to find out that really what the issue is that there's something within them that they need to work out. There's something within them that doesn't allow them to develop the kind of qualities that people enjoy. Because nobody enjoys that. Let's just be honest, okay? Let's be honest. Nobody enjoys someone who always finds the negatives in life. No matter what you accomplish, no matter what new things come your way that are good, if you're surrounded by people who always pull the negative out of the situation, after a while, then that's going to rub off on you. And then you'll find yourself in the best of circumstances finding something to complain about. And that's not manhood. That's not manhood. To be able to face the storm with positivity. See, you inspire other people. You inspire them to be better than even they think they can be. Because they're watching your example. They trust you. They see the results that you're having and they want those same results. That's a part of manhood. Now, the red pill in itself, as I mentioned, is not a formula for anger and rage. It's not. Initially, it was set up just to give voice to grievances. And a lot of times what I've found also is that in situations where you've experienced personally difficulties, a person will attempt to list off all of the negative things that they've experienced as a warning. But now, if that's the course that you choose to take, then I would say that you need to complement that with what a person can do practically. Give me some practical ways that I can avoid the difficulties that you just listed. Don't just give me the difficulties. Give me a practical way that I can overcome these challenges so that I can be successful. Now, warning is nice. Yes, we all appreciate warnings. We all appreciate warnings. But at the same time, instruction to go along with those warnings so that not only do I avoid a misstep, but then I know what direction to take. I know where to go from here. See, that's more effective. That's more effective. And you hear on a lot of podcasts, and I agree, you hear that a person needs to become the best version of themselves possible. And then usually they list, and amongst all those accomplishments, finances, maybe physical fitness, okay? Maybe, even emotional fitness. Being able to sit down and get some help in areas where you may be traumatized. See, all of that is a part of it. But are we, as Manosphere creators, are we pushing the positive? Are we saying, okay, listen, now, I would prefer that you didn't allow yourself to overeat and perhaps have trouble in the future because of the diet that you're consuming. So here is someone who can help you. Here's a workout plan, or maybe here's another creator that focuses on fitness. I recommend that, as a part of the regimen that I'm giving you, that you also look into your fitness. See, that's more positive. That's more positive. That's going to go farther with a young man, because you're giving him practical steps that he can take. And then see, after a while of practicing those practical steps, now it becomes routine. So you think about it. Someone that may have been overweight or someone who may have had a bad temper, if you give them practical steps that they can use to deal with losing weight or to deal with emotional control, how to control their anger so that it doesn't explode. If you give them practical tools that they can use and move forward, then it'll become a routine. And then as the routine takes hold, the person will notice in their personal life how much better things have become for them because they've taken those practical steps that you gave them. They built the routine with those practical steps. It's become a part of their lifestyle, and now they're able to benefit. That's what this is all about. I don't know what any other creator is, what they're espousing, what their goals are, but that's my goal. That's my goal. That one young man can look at something that I've written, a podcast maybe that I'm involved with. If they can look at that podcast and come away feeling energized and encouraged and ready to, do something positive with what they've been given, then I did my job. I did my job. You'll never hear me advocate for anger and for abuse and for being disrespectful in the way we behave, in the way that we speak. That's just not who I am. And I found that in life you can be forceful. You can be forceful, but you can do it in a way that shows respect for the people that you're dealing with. You can be firm, but loving at the same time. And so when you approach a person like that, it's easier for them to take hold of what you're saying because they know it's coming from a place of genuine concern for a person. You're genuinely concerned for their needs. You're genuinely concerned for the outcome of their life. And in a lot of cases, after you had, time to build a relationship with a person, a friendship, I'll say, then a lot of times if you're an older gentleman like myself, if I built friendships with younger guys, see, as I get to know you, then what inevitably happens is your success is tied to my success because you're my friend. And so when you come to me and you ask me for advice, I try to give you the best advice that I can because I want you to succeed. I want you to do well. And I think that the majority of the men in the Manosphere, I think that's what they want for those that listen to them. They want them to have the best outcomes. They want them to be able to see the benefit of responding to things with wisdom as opposed to just emotions. And so, like I mentioned, there's some danger there, but in order to circumvent the danger, have a real life example to follow. And then just be cautious of what you allow yourself to ingest. Be cautious. Look for things that are positive. Look for things that are upbuilding. Look for things that you can walk away from and you feel rejuvenated as opposed to angry and drained. Well, I talk all day long, man. Let me get on to work. Y'all know I love you. Peace.